Welcome back. Today we do a quick one on the Clavelon Delta. I don't know. I'm not sure how to actually say that name, and I'm not going to butcher it again. We'll just call it the Delta. And the Delta, of course, is referring to the triangular shape of the shell. So this one is a really nice metal build. It's CNC machined aluminum. So yeah, very, very solid, very nice. Kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say I would expect it at $100 or $99 for the price of this one, but it's really nice to feel an all metal build. They always feel a little bit more solid than the resin. But yeah, this one is quite nice, a little bit unexpected on the build quality. It's sort of a twisted triangular shape like that. Yeah, cool. The cable is, I think, high quality OFC, I think is what they called it. It does come with this little leather band to hold it all together. This is the box. This is the ear tip case comes in the box, so you get one set of silicone ear tips. The box has these things on the front. Probably the more important things are actually on the box. So that is a pretty good shot of their frequency response graph. So yeah, quite nice. I mean, this has a very modern, nice bass shelf that actually covers sub bass, some nice mid bass, and then this, kind of raise it up through ear gain and then gently roll all the way down in through air, and nicely extended on both sides. And we'll kind of get into some of the finer points on the sound about right now. So for those of you who have looked at this one on Linsoul and saw it pop up on the new releases like I do, you're kind of looking at it because it has a cool triangular CNC machined aluminum shell, as I said. And then you also notice that it has a high magnetic titanium dynamic driver. So cool things, right? Metal shell, titanium driver. You don't see all that often. So as soon as I graphed it, I sort of knew that this one was going to fit my preferences. It has a very likable graph, very familiar style bass shelf. Those of you who are, maybe have heard Alina, or maybe Lan is a little bit leaner to it, but this is a really nice ratio of sub bass and mid bass. Both of those a little bit nicer than Harman Target. So it kind of touches a little bit under Harman Target on the sub bass, so dip it off a little bit, which is important for me, and then boost up the mid bass just a little bit. That gives you fuller style mids, a little thicker style mids. That is perfect. And then as we come around through the upper mids and treble, I think Alina was a pretty good match here. Here, I thought of Lan was the first thing that really caught my eye, and the Delta is in red, so it has this nice, peaks up to 2.5, and then it has this little peak at 6, and I thought Lan was actually like that. I remember Lan did something a little strange there, but it's not quite the same upper mid treble as Lan. It's a little bit lower than Alina, so I'm not sure what the perfect match is over here, but this is a very familiar style, very nicely balanced bass, upper mids, treble, all these things, really nice balance, kind of as you expect to hear on a nicely executed single dynamic driver. So yeah, I'm not sure what the perfect match is, but it's a very, anytime you're sort of right under the Harman Target and you kind of see that the Harman Target is about where Alina is in the blue, this one in the red is just going to be slightly under. And as soon as you go slightly underneath the Harman Target, you don't have that shoutiness. You have like kind of a more natural upper mid, more natural vocals, kind of exactly what you got in the Delta. Then you have a little bit more mid bass that is a thicker, kind of a fuller style mid. So yep, right there, along with kind of the things that I like to hear in single dynamic drivers. So the sound, really nicely executed single dynamic driver. Like I said, has a very familiar style tuning. And you hear the nice tuning right away in the stage. It has this really nice projection around your head, nice swirly things around your head, exactly what you're expecting on a nicely executed tuning on a nice driver. So yeah, all nice package here. Even though I'm not like a huge fan of the $100 and over single dynamic drivers, there's lots of sets that are beneath that price. So I tend to get a little bit pickier when they hit about $100, but as soon as I heard the stage and kind of this mid bass, I sort of knew that this one was kind of right there in the ballpark of what I like to hear. And on the bass, I will say again, so take note of this little dip here, the way it kind of arcs down just a little bit. And I call it a slight dip on the sub bass. That will let you go deep, but it doesn't boom. And I love this amount of sub bass control for that particular reason, because you can do a nice dip here, you get a lot of depth on the sub bass, you bump up the mid bass, and that gives you kind of your impact, has a really kind of more tactile impact, but it doesn't have this blurry boom on the back end of it. And I love this style bass shelf for that reason. So the mid bass is boosted, and that will give you those thicker mids, fuller mids, rather than the leaner Harman target, which is down there in the dotted line. So the mids, again, you have this mid bass boost that's going to give you this fuller sound. You have a relaxed ear gain up there. Both of those are going to combine and give you a more natural single dynamic driver sound. And if you like that Harman style female vocals kind of up there where Alina is, it's not quite that. It's a little bit lower. It's a little bit more relaxed. So those of you who are into those high energy female vocals, it's not quite that style. It's kind of more of a relaxed, thicker, and sometimes people call them huskier female vocals, but it's not quite that, but it's not quite the Harman over-energetic style either. So the lower ear gain will also get you those. It'll ask you to tick the volume a little up. And again, when you relax this little bit, it always requires just a tick up on the volume to come forward and sound clearer and kind of more present. And that's kind of the same thing that happens on lots of sets. But as soon as you kind of have this below the Harman target, you can kind of figure that it'll take probably a notch or two above what you might do at any set that's at the Harman target, which is a little bit more over-energetic. Those kind of don't require any more extra volume. But when you tick below it, I think it's always sounds a little bit better if you bring it a little bit more present, a little bit more forward with a little bit more volume. So most noticeable on the mids, it's the warmer, thicker sound to the mids. And you have a nice, better background because I said there's no boom to the sub bass, there's no droning sub bass, there's no persistent sub bass in the background. That will allow you to do a little bit more mid bass, and it'll still give you a cleaner mid style. And that just it offers a way to do a cleaner style mid without the need to really boost up this area. And this is exactly what Delta does. The guy who tuned this kind of knew exactly what he was doing right here, and right here. I don't know who they are or where he came from, but he has a pretty good ear for this style balance and these style mids that are a little bit more thicker than what you're finding at some of the more popular sets that were released this year. So the treble, again, very nice level to balance out the bass and to present, really as what you would want as a very natural style dynamic driver. Most noticeable in this style is the transition from the upper mids to the treble to the upper treble. No bright spots, and it sounds seamless as it should. Again, this bass shelf is actually quite nice, but when you combine that with this style curve, the way the treble does it, and you can actually see it's definitely more apparent on the way they do it. This kind of rolling downhill arcing where your 10K kind of ends up just below the mids, a very, very nice style, a very nice way to extend the treble. Gives you lots of detail, lots of presence all the way through air, but it doesn't sound over boosted, it doesn't sound peaky at 8K. It's just a more natural way to do it. And as soon as you look at the graph and listen to it, it all makes sense. So, but there is this weird, you see that red thing about 6K. There is a weird bump at 6K. I think it's certainly better than 4 or 5K. And it doesn't necessarily sound peaky. It just sounds a little bit lifted, like they added a little bit more detail to the vocals, in the way that you would normally put a peak at 4 or 5K. They just put it at 6. And that tends to be, a little less, apparent detail that you would get at 5K. Like 5K is super sharp. 6K, not quite as sharp, but it does add a little lift to the treble. And I think it was nicely done. It's sort of not that noticeable. The way this kind of bleeds over into 7K, maybe you will notice a harder S at some point, but yeah, I wouldn't call that a sibilant or anything. I think it's just kind of a nice way to throw a little bit more apparent detail, a little bit more sharpness, a little bit more note definition on a thicker style lower end. Again, the guy who tuned this kind of knew exactly what he was doing. Stage, as it should be, and as you would expect from this style tuning, plenty of dimension, plenty of projection, and it gets better as you turn the volume up. It gets a little bit bigger. Again, swirls around your head, lots of depth to it, height, all those things that you're expecting to hear on a $100 dynamic driver. Done very well. Again, the guy knows what he's doing. So who is this one for? Again, like I said, a $99 single dynamic driver in 2024. I think that's tough, and I've complained about lots of them. it's kind of a hurdle for me to recommend sets that are $100. And the feel was in the same way. It's like it has to stand out in some way. And in this one, perhaps it's the metal shells. It's perhaps the look of the triangular metal shells, the aluminum shells. I think that is pretty interesting. So who are you? Who's the person that is interested in this kind of set at $100? Part of it is you're going to be attracted to the shell design. Part of it is you're going to be attracted to fuller style mids that aren't so bloated or muddy, but really nicely balanced with the treble and still have extension, still executed on a nice titanium single dynamic driver. So I think it hits enough points where I'm kind of okay with it. I certainly enjoy listening to it, and I'm kind of at peace with the price because of how it sounds. But again, I'm kind of a tough critic when it comes to the $100 single dynamic drivers. Definitely not for your tech heads. It's not like a heavy analytical set. And I wouldn't even say the clean and clarity style, like you guys who like this Harman style bass shelf where it drops really down to the floor 200. It's definitely not that style. There's definitely a fullness to the mids right there. But, for someone who likes a little nice warmth to the mids, nice bodied mids and a nicely matched treble that can handle volume scaling, it's more in that line. So that is what I got on the Delta. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.